Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV. Well, it's Wednesday, the 4th of April 2012. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't feel too good because I had a bit of a rough night last night. I didn't drink anything, just didn't sleep too well. Anyway, the reason I'm making this film is because a few days ago was my appeal hearing. Now, if you don't already know, then you've got a lot of catching up to do, but basically I was discharged from the hospital portering service, and I've written on the blog a lot and I've made a lot of movies about this. Check the description box in true HPANWO tradition and you'll see some links to there going through all about it. And anyway, a few days ago I was booked in for an appeal hearing. Now I knew that was going to happen. What's more, I knew when it was. I even put a note of it in my diary, but somehow I forgot it. Somehow it went out of my head, and I only really remembered it the morning I was supposed to go to the hearing. And I suddenly woke up, and it's basically an hour before I had to leave. I suddenly remember, my God, when I checked my diary, oh my God, it's my appeal hearing today. Well, something inside me just snapped. Now, I'm quite a tranquil person. I'm quite, I try not to get wound up about things, but I did on this occasion, and something inside me just went, no, I've had enough, no more. And so I basically said, fuck it, and I didn't attend the hearing. So the hearing went on without me. Now I know that's not a very wise thing to do, and my shop steward actually said this when I got a very urgent text message from him saying, where the hell are you? Ring me urgently. So I called him and I apologised, and I just said, I'm sorry, I just can't go through with this. Well, I could, but basically it would piss me off so much, and to gain, and it would gain me very little because I can't win the appeal. Can't win it. It would basically, you see, my grounds for appeal were that the conclusion reached at the original appeal hearing on the 6th of January was unfair considering the cases presented. Now, I don't actually have any new evidence to add to my case, so it will basically just be a rehash of the original case, which would be rejected. In fact, I actually put the day I got through, because I got a letter through telling me when the hearing was, I put a note on Facebook saying how annoyed I was that they even granted me a hearing. I was so pissed off. And I just wanted them to say, well, you have no grounds for an appeal hearing, goodbye. But no, they had to grant me a bloody appeal hearing. So I feel like this has been dragged on. This whole case has had that kind of shilly-shally about it. It's like they're just dragging it on for as long as they can. The only difference is I'm not getting paid now. While I wait for my appeal hearing, I don't even get severance pay anymore. So, well, basically, for some reason, even though I knew intellectually the appeal hearing was, I knew when it was, that it was coming, and I knew the date, it was in my diary, somehow it just didn't quite register, and I'm sure a psychologist will be able to pick that apart and realise the reason that happened. But, basically, I'm not a saint, I'm not perfect, and there's times when I just snap, and I decide that I just don't want to go through a certain thing that I'm supposed to go through or deal with. I know that's not a very good idea from a legal position, but like I said, I take full responsibility, as I always do, and I decided not to attend. Now, I want this situation over with. I want it I want closure on this whole issue, so I can basically go and talk to a solicitor. I've just had enough. I'm sick of it. I want it over with. I want to be able to say goodbye, you bastards. Now, it's been a rough ride now, October the 18th I got suspended, which means that's almost 6 months ago that I was called in that office and told, we're suspending you. What? And I asked, why? Here, can't tell you. And all this other crap that led to the situation I'm in now. It's been a long, hard road. I mean, it's had its ups and downs. I mean, I've been happy, I've been sad, I've been angry, I've been pissed off, I've been scared. I've not been bored. That's one good thing. At least you can say my life's not boring, whatever else it might be. I say things are looking up for me. I've got a couple of jobs coming up. Basically, self-employed work. I mean, because I'll write more about this, and I have said more about this, but before I've warned about this. But the government have rigged the system so you can't get jobs or get benefits or anything unless you've got bloody ID. And as you know, I've denounced my statute law self. So David Cameron wasn't lying when he said, "We'll never make ID compulsory." What he didn't say was, "Yes, but you won't be able to function in society without it, you bastards." So that's very crafty of him, as he is a very crafty and devious man. Anyway, back on subject. Yeah, I've got a couple of self-employed jobs. I'm doing house cleaning, and there's another job coming up, which I don't want to say anything just yet, but it's something a lot better, and it's directly HPANWO related, but it might earn me some money, so that's good. I'm writing my new book, and of course, Rock All is on sale. As I said, it's had its ups and downs. I mean, it's been some good ups, I must say. I mean, recently especially, because last week I actually went to Newcastle to film a couple of episodes of Rich Planet TV with Richard D. Hall. Now, I was on his TV show before. If you look in the description box, you'll see links to that. The Rich Planet TV show is an excellent programme, and if you haven't watched it before, then go and watch it. You can see it online, or if you get Sky Channel 201, you can watch it every Friday evening on there. Anyway, Richard wants me back on the show, so I went to Newcastle last week and we shot 2 episodes, which are going to be broadcast. The first one's going to be broadcast probably sometime next week. The second one probably later in the month, because there's a couple of other interviews he wants to do in between. But either way, I will let you know closer to the time, and keep your eye on the HPANWO blog and the Rich Planet website, and I will announce when those shows are actually going to be broadcast. And of course, they are available to be watched online anytime once they've been broadcast. Another good thing that's happened recently is Nexus magazine, which I'm sure you're familiar with, have published a letter that I wrote, basically telling you everything that's been happening to me. Basically the things I've been saying, I wrote a letter to them and they published, so that's good. You read Nexus magazine, you'll see it in the letters page, just basically explaining what happened to me, because I'm not the only one now. There's other people, and this is now happening to more and more people. And if it happens to you or anyone else, then let me know, because this seems to be a recurring consequence of getting involved in conspiratorial matters. It's had its downs as well. Like I said, the being granted an appeal hearing was a major down. Another major down. Well, another very, very disheartening thing happened. One of the guys who was in the Sun article with me actually wrote to me and told me on Facebook that he'd been sacked from his job too. And I went, yippee. Not because I was pleased he was sacked from his job, obviously, but because it meant that somebody else has suffered the same fate as me, because they were in that Sun article. And so I phoned him up and I talked to him, and it very, very quickly became clear that I was barking up the wrong tree. This guy was sacked from his job after he was in the papers, but for a completely different reason. It turns out that he, it wasn't just a made-up reason either, like it was with me. It turns out that he already was on borrowed time in that job. He was on very shaky ground. He was getting, he wasn't doing very well. He wasn't getting on with his boss. It was only a matter of time before they got rid of him anyway. So there was no causal link between appearing in the newspaper and being dismissed from your job. Because if there had been, if that happened, then that would really, really have done me a lot of good, and us a lot of good, because it makes the cries of coincidence echo even more falsely than they already do. I mean, well, I'm sure some skeptics will still say it's coincidence. I mean, skeptics are in love with coincidence, and they'll say anything's a bloody coincidence sometimes. But if you know, it would make, I think fewer people would dismiss it as coincidence than are currently dismissing it now, if two people who were in that article both suffered harassment at work. So that was a bit of a disappointment, but not going to let that put me off. As I said, the appeal hearing, I had the letter like about a month ago for this appeal hearing, and I put a note on Facebook saying how pissed off I was that they were dragging it on for longer and longer like this, and you know, and I just felt, please just let me get this over with. And so, as I said, you know, for very, very obvious psychological reasons, I forgot that I was having my appeal hearing and I didn't turn up at it. I think basically what the main reason I didn't go is because I just don't want to sit in a room like I did before in front of these people and listen to their lies again. I've tried to keep a level, sort of dignified and non-committal kind of attitude throughout this case, and you'll notice that in my other films, but I am angry with the way they treated me. Now, of course, you know, these people in the office aren't the people who sacked me. They're not the people who wanted me out. I mean, the people who wanted me out were people much higher up, probably in the Department of Health, who were obeying this policy of harassing people at work who talk in the newspapers about conspiratorial matters. But they couldn't have done what they did without the cooperation of their underlings in the trust board. And this is a perennial lesson to do with control of the elite by the minority, by the minority elite of the majority of people. All right, that is, they require our cooperation. Now, Gandhi said it very well. He said 400 million Indians cannot be controlled by 100,000 Englishmen if those Indians will not cooperate with them. And he advocated peaceful but non-cooperative resistance against the British Raj. I mean, and his lesson was not lost on Martin Luther King a generation later in America, who was very much inspired by Gandhi. And this is a very, very important point to make. I mean, at the highest level, right, there are 13 people rule this world. That is the heads of the Illuminati families. 13 people. Well, there's 7 billion of us. So if it comes to a fight, place your bets. It is so important to understand that the Illuminati do not have any power. People call them all powerful, but they're not all powerful. They have no power. They play a passive role. They wield the power that we abdicate to them. And if we refuse to abdicate it, there's nothing they can do. They're helpless. And this is the point we have to make. And this is the point where how it applies to my situation is that the trust management, as the people who run the hospital, they're appointed directly from the Department of Health, but the order came through from government to get rid of me. Now, they had an opportunity to do the right thing instead of the easy thing. They could have stood up for me. They had an opportunity to stand up for one of their most valuable members of staff. One of them, the longest, most served, most experienced and dedicated members of staff. And they failed. They failed. They acted out their assigned role, and they said, "Yes, sir, we'll do it at once, sir. Let's make up some lies about him and say we got a complaint, sir." And I feel enormous contempt and resentment for them for that. Not the people who wanted me out, but the people who collaborated and were accomplices to those who wanted me out. And that's why I didn't go to the appeal hearing, because I just don't want to see these people. They could have stood by me and stood up for me, right? And they didn't. They're basically they're a bunch of gutless, mindless robots. And there's too many of those in this world. And if it weren't for them, none of this shit would be going on, including what's happened to me and everything else. It's far worse than that. This is what I mean when... This is what Gandhi meant. This is what Martin Luther King meant. This is what I mean. You know, you've got to dig your heels in and stand up to these bastards. And I mean, I'd like to address these people directly, actually. I'm talking to you, the people who work at the hospital in management, who organised to have me discharged from orders from above, all right? You've acted you've acted out your role as mindless lackeys to those above, and you've kissed their arse, and you've got what they want, you've done what they wanted. What do you think you're going to gain from it? Do you expect gratitude? Do you? Do you expect loyalty from them in exchange for what you've done? No. Let me tell you, the Illuminati does not do loyalty. It does not do gratitude. And it will cast you aside with as much contempt and with as little conscience as it did me, and with as little hesitation. Understand this. As far as they are concerned, you are as worthless to them as I am. And you will gain nothing from what you've done today, except when all this shit comes out, when everything is revealed, you will have a lot of questions to answer, a lot of tough questions to answer. And don't expect me to speak out in your defence, because I'll be one of the prosecutors. Brian Desborough, the American researcher, well, he's a British-American researcher. He tells a very interesting story in his book about a satanic ritual. One of the loyalist acolytes of the satanic network that he's a part of, this Illuminati group, is involved in one of these rituals, and suddenly the high priest just nods at him, and the other acolytes just grab him and put him on the altar, and they sacrifice him. And Desborough actually says in the book, this is what happens to those who serve. You will gain nothing. You'll be used for as long as you're useful, and then you'll be cast aside too. And you will too. And you, the people who sacked me, you may not end up in any altar, but you might end up out of a job yourself one day. Well, don't come running to me for sympathy when that happens, all right? You'll be kicked out of the hospital as quickly as I was, and you'll be exactly where I am right now. That's it, really. This is why I didn't go to the appeal hearing, because I didn't want to sit in front of you because you're a bunch of bastards. And that's all I have to say, really, in a word. Thank you for watching HPANWO TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.